but I want to go back to a question that you brought up, the one that you asked the IRS agent. I want you to answer it. Who has to pay income taxes?
So, from what I understand from reading the tax law, it's government employees, elected officials, and residents of Washington, D.C., or people who don't live in Washington, D.C., but receive money from Washington, D.C.
Interesting.
That's it.
Really?
And so, and keep in mind, I have a couple friends who former IRS agents. They totally agree with me. I have lawyers totally agree with me. I know through Pete Hendrickson, who is somebody who kind of figured out how to beat the bureaucracy and use their forms to get all of our money back. He's got 100,000 something, 200,000 people who follow his system who get 100% of their money refunded from the IRS through withholding and everything else. And they don't pay any tax, and it's all based on the same premise. And it's really interesting because you can read through the tax code, and it says things like, independent contractor, right? Everyone's like, oh, I'm an independent contractor. Nobody knows what that means. Those are we consider these to be magic words, right? Because the government has very special definitions of these things, right? And none of us know what they are. You can go, so independent contractor is based on trade or business, right? And if you go to the IRS website, again, the IRS lies on their website, and you can prove that because the Supreme Court has said, no, that's totally wrong, right? It's not a direct tax. But if you dig around on the IRS website, they'll say, don't trust anything on our website because we're not lawyers and this isn't the law. And if we ever accidentally print anything wrong on our website, it's not going to defend you in court. Only the law works in court. They say that on their website, right? They say that,
as do other agencies too.
So
yeah.
Yeah. So basically they're like, okay, but you go and you're like, okay, well, what's a trade or business, right? Oh, we got to tax trade or business. Okay, that makes sense. There's a tax on trade or business. What is a trade or business? And then they go there and they go on to describe it, basically saying, well, a trade or business is a trade or a business. And it's like, well, that doesn't really define much. You're like, what's the color blue? Well, it's when something is blue. And you're not defining it, right? So this is what they're doing. But if you go into the tax code, it very clearly says that, well, hold on. Let me take that back. It does not very clearly say it. In one section where they define trade or business, and this is the section where they say okay, we're going to define trade or business because here's where we talk about taxing trade or business. And they say, okay, here's the definition of trade or business. Trade or business means the same thing that it means in section 600 and something, right? It's like, okay, why don't you just tell me what it means? So you go to 600 and something, it's used a dozen times, it's never defined, right? So it's like, okay, so you're referencing this part of the code, you're telling me to go here to look for the definition. Really, in section 7,000 something else, there's actually a definition. Why didn't you send me there, right? Mm-hmm. But you go there and you look it up, and it says a trade or business is the performance and duties of a public office. So, okay, wait. So like a senator is right. Engaged in a trade or business. Now think about this, right? Because people are like, no, business is like you're a plumber. Yeah, that's your business, right? It's a trade. Okay, that's not what they mean in terms of business. If you, because like I said, these are magic words, right? And people hate that, right? They're like, oh, I've heard people say, oh, you think you can go into court and use the magic words and they're going to throw your case out. Like, okay, yeah, it's kind of weird to call them magic words, and they don't work exactly like that, but they do have meaning and they do have origins. Right. And when they say doing business, right? Doing business used to be like a corporation in one state would be considered doing business if they were doing something in that state. It's a corporation. It's considered doing business. And it comes from, and you'll see this in politics, when session is open, right? They are conducting business on the floor of the Hall of Congress, right? They're conducting business. You have political parties; they're there conducting business. You have the CEO and the board of the board of executives and everything in a corporation, making decisions. They're doing business. They're having elections. They're doing that's what this means, doing business, right? And so when they say trade or business, they're talking about, and trade or business is one word. It's one like thing, right? It's not a trade or a business. It's trade or business. It's one phrase with one definition, right?
Okay.
And so yeah, so you have this like entire construct of like, okay, doing business. And all the income taxes and everything else were the ones that we have now were actually originally created for corporations, and then they were basically like, we're going to expand our power and just say it's for everyone. And they changed the wording to like get people to buy it, but that's where this started, and that use those words, right? So it's really fascinating that like when you dig into the code and you understand like, okay, trade or business, and then you start thinking about like, okay, well, I'm an independent contractor. I don't get a W-2. I get a 1099. Go read the instructions for every single 1099, right? And it says only report income from a trade or business, right? Trade or business, right? Now, if you invest in the stock market and you buy and sell and you have some capital gains, they're gonna report that to the IRS on a 1099.
Right.
And the instructions now tell me, even if trade or business meant like, okay, you're a plumber and it's your plumbing business, like, but you took some of that money and you invested in the stock market, that income is not from your trade or business, is it?
No.
So
you personally.
So why are they reporting that on a form saying that it's income from trade or business? So like, and people are just like, oh, this is what they do. This is just how things work. It's like, no, hold on. We're talking about a legal system here, right? There is no, that's just how things work. There's very specific meanings to all these words, right? What's the difference between murder, attempted murder, manslaughter? They're very specific words with very specific meanings. You can't just say like, it's just the way it is. That's not nonsense. So sorry, totally long rant there, but
I think you just nailed the problem. I think you just nailed the entire problem just with that last statement. That's just the way it's done. That is the entire problem with this whole thing. I mean, I think every issue that you can bring up goes back to, well, that's just the way we do it. That's just the way it's done because that's the way we're raised to believe it.